Welcome back to another episode of Bricks and Clicks. Today we're with Betsy McGinn, and we're going to be talking all about how you can use Amazon as a marketing platform instead of as a sales strategy. Betsy, welcome back to our podcast. I'll make sure and reference our first podcast together in the notes so that everybody can see it. How are you today? Maybe for those that haven't met you before, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, it's so good to see you, and thank you for having me back. So my name is Betsy McGinn, and I've been working in e-commerce for about 16 years. So I've been, working with Amazon for a very long time. I like to say like about 500 years in dog years, It's felt like that sometimes. First, I was working for Seventh Generation, and about 9 years ago, I started my own business where I help brands launch on Amazon, fix their Amazon businesses, develop strategy, products, packs, pricing strategies for the whole market, because we know pricing is an issue. And I wrote a book called The Amazon Roadmap to help brands launch on Amazon, because not everybody can afford to go the path of working with a consultant or a brand management agency. So it gives some of the basics, but it definitely does not replace expertise. We just want brands to be able to have a foundation. So my colleague Phil Siegel and I wrote this book about 3 years ago. And because it's based on those foundational elements, it's still very current with what's going on at Amazon.
Great intro for sure. Betsy is our number one referral partner. Most of our clients come from her. We have lots of food together, lots of food clients. And so what we've been finding over the last, I'd say, couple of years since COVID, where Betsy and Ashley and I were really pushing customers to get on Amazon because they needed to be seen and buyers are looking for them. And it's a great search and discovery method. There was a time when for most people, it could still be profitable. And as Amazon's continue to raise their fees, we're seeing increases in the cost of distribution and logistics and the price of raw materials. I think for some of our clients, and Betsy, I think you'll agree, we're starting to see it's not profitable sometimes with some items now to be on Amazon, and you've got to get kind of scrappy about your strategy. So I'd love to kind of kick this off with Betsy giving us kind of that eagle eye view, which is really her expertise of total strategy for e-com, and let us know, what are you seeing? What's happening in the market? Why is Amazon not profitable anymore? And then what do you do? Do you jump off of Amazon? Do you do something different? Is it still an important platform? What do you think?
Those are a lot of questions, and you're going to have to remind me of some of them again after I get started.
Jump in with whichever one was most important, I guess.
Well, I think the bird's eye view is a really good one. For starters, probably the lowest margin consumer product items are food and beverage, right? So just for starters, whether you're on a retail shelf or you're selling through Amazon, you're going to have some challenges with profitability and need to really be vigilant about your unit economics. Add into that the complexities of e-commerce, where if you're a bigger, heavier brand like a beverage brand, the cost of shipping and fulfillment, takes on a whole new role in your profitability, right? There's no way around it. So we've seen over the years that as you said, the fulfillment fees have gotten more and more expensive. I mean, everything has in our economy, but it's eroded those margins to the point that this year, for the first time ever, I worked with launching 3 brands that decided not to go forward because we could not see a path to profitability. And that's, for all these reasons we're talking about, increased fees, certain products are just not as viable online if you're strictly looking at profitability. That said, there's a lot of reasons to be on Amazon that are not just a sheer profit center motivation. And I think that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. But, again, from that overall view, it really is different times, because in this last year, the fees have gone up more than once. We're used to seeing them go up incrementally every February. This year, it's been more than that. And so the acceleration of challenges to profitability have just increased. And the answer is not always but it can be sometimes, is not always raising your prices, because there is a certain pain point for consumers where, is somebody going to pay $11 for about a box of pasta? Probably not. But, there are products where you could take an incremental increase. If it's, an $18 product and you sell it for $19.99 or something like that, you can still be on the platform and strive for that profitability. The other thing that I think we've all witnessed is, no matter how great your product is, no matter the profitability potential, you probably shouldn't even expect it in that first year, because the sheer amount of work and investment in marketing, advertising, social media, other tactics to build that business, it's all investment spending. It's not based on that traditional retail model where people think of, oh, I'm going to spend 15% of my sales. And that's a really solid, logical way to spend on marketing. But when you start on Amazon, you don't have a pipeline fill of $100,000 like you would at Target, right? So that 15% from a Target pipeline fill of $15,000 makes sense to spend. Amazon, if you want to do 15%, you're basically doing 15% of zero when you start, right? So that investment spending is so important, and it often offsets the ability to be profitable in that first year or so. Are you seeing that as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to ask a couple questions and kind of like double click into a few of the things that you just talked about. One being the cost analysis. And I think if anyone's listening to this and they're like, Betsy, I had this last week, I had 2 potential clients, one that actually came from you, say, I don't even know the fees. I don't understand. I don't know how to be profitable. So is there a magical like cost calculator or a magical formula that you recommend people use, or that maybe you have on your website? What do you come up with, and what do you recommend?
For all of my clients, I do that profitability calculation for them. And it can be a little bit different for each brand, but the metrics are basically, the starters are, if you're working with Amazon and you're a food and beverage brand, it's going to be a 15% referral fee or commission, whatever you want to call it, to Amazon. And then whatever the fulfillment fee is. The great thing about Amazon fulfillment fees is it's one fee no matter where you're shipping in the country. So, unlike direct to consumer, where maybe your fulfillment center is located in California and shipping to Maine is going to cost you $20 instead of $5. No matter where Amazon ships your product in their model, it's the same fulfillment fee. So that's something you can count on. So those are the 2 main fees, but then you also have to look at, what is your cost of goods, and make sure that you have that covered. What kind of warehousing and prep do you need for the product to send it in to meet Amazon's standards? What is that shipment into Amazon's fulfillment center? Because most brands, of course, use FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, which means, you're shipping products into Amazon's fulfillment center for them to ship it to the consumer. I know brands that are great at this, and they even take into consideration the cost of bubble wrap or the tape they put on it or a marketing flyer. But like you said, there's a lot of brands that don't realize all of these particular costs of doing business. And so all of a sudden wake up one day and say, oh gosh, I really undercalculated the profitability of this channel. So I think there is nothing formulaic, especially if you're an international brand. You have a whole other layer getting over to the US, but the fact of the matter is, you really need to think through what every single one of those potential inputs is before you can say, this is my price and this is my profitability.
I love that. So I imagine that when you work one-on-one with a client, you're like, take me through the entire cycle, from creating the product to what your actual cost of goods are, from then where does it go, and there where does it go, and then who's touching it, and are you bubble wrapping, are you palletizing, are you putting a shipping container, are you drop air shipping, like what's happening, so that you can get to the base of all of that. So I'll try to come up with some sort of like basic calculation that we can put in our notes for this particular podcast episode, to try to give someone an idea of what to add in, because they might have forgotten, like the bubble wrap was such a great add-on. I think a lot of people forget. Packing tape. Oh, I need boxes. I have to ship in boxes.
Yeah.
The other
And just,
yes.
oh, I'm sorry. One of the things I think people don't think about too, or don't know about because they haven't done e-commerce enough, is it's highly likely if you, let's say you're selling cereal, you're not going to sell a 12 pack of cereal to a consumer, but probably a box is not going to be profitable either. So maybe it's a 3-pack. And guess what? That 3-pack could be more profitable than a single box or the case, because you're trying to figure out the unit economics and the optimal pack for the consumer combined. And so if you get those things right, you're really taking a good stab at improving your profitability. And I think that's, again, where some people miss. They also, brands don't always have the ability to create a 3-pack at their manufacturer. So then if you decide you're going to do that, that's an additional layer of cost, but it could pay off, right? You just need to know what your numbers are to be able to, really figure this out and in the end be confident with those numbers.
I agree completely. The other thing I wanted to come back and ask you a question about was, when you tell brands, be ready to invest an entire year, that can mean a lot of things. That could mean $1 million. That could mean 100,000 or 10,000. What would you say if there's some sort of like budget? Like, I know these days when we say, if you're going to launch a brand into the world, you have to have at least $1 to $2 million minimum. It just costs so much money to advertise and do social media and pay people to help you and to get a product birthed into the world. So we're talking about your first year on Amazon. What does that look like in terms of financial responsibility to not expect an ROI on?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question. And quite frankly, as brands have come to me to work to launch, that's one of my first questions is, do you have money? And I don't mean to pay me or to pay you. Yeah. I mean to spend on your brand, your marketing, your social media ads, whatever those tools are that you're going to use. Because if you think you're going to be a unicorn brand on Amazon, it's a dream. It's not possible anymore. I don't know if it ever really was possible, but the fact of the matter is that investment can be upwards of $100,000 in the first year, right? Because if you think about what you probably want to spend on advertising on the Amazon platform, would start with $3,000 to $5,000 a month. And then most likely you want someone to help you manage that, because it is not a turnkey process to advertise on Amazon. And the experience level within companies often isn't there. So you have to then think about what that layer on of advertising or brand management agency help would be. Then are you going to drive outside the platform to Amazon via social media and social media ads? There's cost to that. So each of these pieces that's so important has its own level of cost. And I'm just going to say one thing right now that may seem unrelated to people, but it's not. The best way to waste that money is to run out of stock on Amazon. Yes, it is so different than running out of stock on the shelf, right? On the shelf in a retail store, you go, oh my gosh, I missed that sale. On Amazon, you just blew 90 to 120 days worth of success getting up your search ranking, right? All that money you've spent, all that time you've devoted to increase your ranking, hopefully start popping up on that first page, tanks because all of a sudden you have no product to sell. And to regain that footing is no easy feat. So it's the number one component to success, in my opinion, is staying in stock. Don't even run out for a day. Watch your stock, make it a priority. If you are on Amazon, and you're having inventory problems throughout your company, make Amazon that priority because of the losses you can sustain by not making that a priority.
Perfect. I love that. Okay. So I think we've gotten a pretty good idea of whether or not a person or a brand should be selling on Amazon based on some of these thresholds. Like, do you have $100,000 to invest your first year to do it right and not run out of inventory as being one of those components? We talked about the cost analysis and the calculator that people can use to make sure they're even going to be profitable on Amazon. So let's pretend like people that are listening have decided, oh boy, like, okay, I know I can be on Amazon, but it's never going to be this like really highly profitable platform for me. Should I even get on there? So this is moving into strategy piece. Should I even get on Amazon? If I am, like, and how much, what does that mean? Can I show up just a little bit so that buyers can see me? Or should I just not show up at all? Because I don't want to tell anybody to go heavily invest in something that's not profitable either. So what are you telling people now in terms of getting really scrappy and either still using that platform or not using it at all anymore?
So I think there's a place for every brand on Amazon, even some of the luxury brands I work with. And you might say, well, what about frozen and refrigerated brands? Maybe they won't have a huge Amazon business, but having that presence on the largest search engine in the world, right? The place that most consumers go to read reviews, which gives your product credibility, whether you buy it online or in a store. I just read the statistic that said that 76% of consumers agree that user developed content is more important to them than brand developed content. And that was from Trustpilot. So in other words, user developed content is those reviews, right? So those are some of the reasons to be on Amazon. We also know that there is a halo effect to the advertising and brand development you do on Amazon, impacting your retail store sales, visibility, brand awareness, brand equity. So there are multiple number of reasons to be on Amazon, and do it well, not just throw your stuff up there because you feel obliged to, but to do it well because it has an impact on every single channel you're in. There are some people that also believe that, if you're on Amazon and you're successful on Amazon, then as a brand, you've made it, which gives you leverage into retail where you might not have that leverage yet as a brand starting out. So there are a lot of good reasons to be on Amazon, even if it's not your most profitable channel, just the impact it can have on other channels. And we all know that every retailer in the world looks at Amazon for what's new, what's interesting, what people are saying about it, what they might be missing in their stores. So why wouldn't you want to be there?
Okay, so I love this direction and we agree. I want to hear you say to what extent. So to preface this, when we have a new client come on board, we say, we want 100 units of every SKU. So you're in every DC. And then from there, we're going to replenish based off of sales demand and forecasting levels and all of that. To me, that's you looking at Amazon as a sales platform versus looking at Amazon as a marketing platform. So if you're going to show up and you're going to do it well because other retailers are looking, and it's important that you show up, to what extent are you looking pretty? Do you have a little bit of inventory? Like, do you just kind of give it life support and keep it barely on? Do you go all in? Like, what do you do, Betsy?
Yeah. I mean, you can look pretty, but if you're showing up on the 10th page, what difference does it make, right?
Yeah.
Right. Ashley's laughing because she knows that so well, right? So even if you aren't thinking about it as your most important sales channel or your most profitable sales channel, it can't be your passive sales channel, right? You have to put the effort in and make sure that you're constantly striving to do your best on Amazon so that your reviews look good, your ranking looks good. If you don't put that effort in, there is a high likelihood that even if a retailer were to go online and search for you by brand name, you might not show up, right? Because you know how long it takes to index and search. And that requires all these activities that we're talking about. You can't just throw your stuff up there and expect that it's going to make a difference. Obviously, one of the things I say is most important is beautiful content. Even if it's just your basic content, right? There's all sorts of content opportunities on Amazon. That basic content so often gets neglected. And that's the title, the 5 bullet points, the primary image, the 7 secondary images, that product page that people see when they click on a product to buy. And because it's not as sexy as other pieces of content like brand stores on Amazon, people tend to neglect it. But as you and I know, it's the only thing that indexes in search, right? So make that look beautiful, sexy, the best you can, better than your competitors. I mean, that is the best building block before you spend any money anyway on advertising or any other activities. Because why would you want to send someone to your page if it looks mediocre, right? You want to look as great as you can. So, I really encourage people to go all in on Amazon, whether they're thinking, okay, this is going to be a huge channel, huge and profitable channel for me, or I know I need to be there for credibility, for, consumer awareness, for, just the cachet that goes with being successful on Amazon. Either way, there's not a good reason for not going forward unless you absolutely cannot spare, a dime, out of your budget to do this. I think we talked about that. It's kind of misguided because we know how important it is to spend that money, to invest it, and what can result from that.
Absolutely. Awesome. This has been incredibly helpful. Do you have anything else to add?
No.
No, Betsy's done all of it
Yes.
for us. Thank you again for coming back on. Thank you for your perspective. I love having that bird's eye strategy that you always bring to the table. And it's nice too. I know that you're dealing with so many different brands and different companies, and having this top level conversation with so many people. You're speaking at things like Expo West. So it's so lovely and refreshing to have you come back on here with us and give us all of that amazing insight. So we appreciate you.
My pleasure. And I just always want to encourage brands. I know Amazon can be frustrating. I know it can be trying, but it's so worth it. So don't give up. Just forge forward with your best efforts and make the most of this incredible platform that you're given to talk to the world.
Yes, I love it. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Have an amazing day. We appreciate you being on.
You too. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye.